Hey there, and welcome to HRD Live. I'm joined by Thomas Huscroft, Global Associate Experience Director at Avon. Lovely for you to join us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. How was your talk this morning?
Talk this morning was actually quite exciting. It's an interesting thing when you talk about employee experience because people think it's engagement, and whilst we need engagement, we were talking more about how the experience needs to be created so that you can look at what you engage. And it's great to know there was a lot of nods in the room, so I was actually saying something that people agreed with, so that's always a bonus.
Always nice, yeah.
Yeah.
So the theme of your talk very much aligns with the conscious organisation, which is our theme of the conference.
Mm-hmm.
How can this be apparent in an overall employee experience?
So there's two ways of looking at conscious, which is kind of what I did in the talk as well.
Right.
So conscious as in, are you actually seeing what the beat is on the ground and what you can do? And everybody says, yeah, they do that because it's about the measurement and the tools and the different numbers that you get in the metrics. So that's one thing to do. But it's actually having the conscious ear. Now, Avon's actually quite a conscious business because of our 6 mil representatives who rely on us to give them a living, basically. And without them, we wouldn't sell anything. We have a conscious or a conscience as well in terms of what that kind of goes through. So we have to think of it from both sides. The one thing that we have been very conscious of is to not bamboozle the business with HR jargon or HR stuff, basically. We have taken one thing that we know was clunky and we have fixed it with the business, so we're conscious of it. And interestingly, this morning in one of the keynotes, Monica from Diageo actually said, Joe, she can design something and it's great, and then all of a sudden she'll think, can a manager do this? Probably not. It's not in their world. So we've got people in their world, one or two, not lots of people, to actually look at it. So we're conscious in two different ways, having a conscious approach, but also being conscious about what we do.
And how important do you believe personalisation is?
Personalisation it's an interesting one. I remember you asked me this question when we did the interview for the website. It's really interesting because everybody wants to be more individual, and of course with the different demographics coming into the workforce, people want experiences within experiences, so they don't want to be the bank manager for the next 30 years. They want different things. So they're looking for something that's just for them. And it's very hard to do that. And this is where the managers and the leaders of the organisation come in, because it's up to them to look at how they deliver that personalisation. So in the talk that I did, I kind of talked about an example of how you would create a day one experience for somebody. So global business. I can't do it 55 countries or the 350 job families we've got, but the manager can. And if they understand why it's important and why that priority makes that experience for somebody, not just the task they have to do, but the way in which they feel about it, that's where it comes in. So it is down to a manager, but it is really important because people are individuals. You can always say that a group of, in our experience, our area or zone managers, you can think they're all the same. They're not, because they've got different representatives and different needs. The zone manager for us in the UK is very different to one in Brazil, because in Brazil, across the Amazon, people are selling our products from boats. So it's different. So it's up to the local managers to do something about it. We've just got to let them get on with it and stop clunking them with red tape.
And is there, inevitably, but what are the challenges around that idea of global management?
The challenge about global management is you'll never please everybody. And you will put something in that works for one country and not all. So one of the key things that we've done within Avon is we've looked at our field sales team, who are hugely important to us. They clearly drive revenue, but they also are the closest people to our representatives. So we've looked about what makes them particularly successful in their roles and what they need in their roles. And by taking that group of people, we've been able to go in and say, actually, these are the key things that make a difference, but it's different in different countries. And my best example is, talk to my colleagues in Mexico, and they'll say to us, but we haven't got a contact centre here. Not like you've got in the UK, so the role is different. And where it's different is down to specific tasks. So, okay, Mexico, you crack on with it, but what makes this job successful are these attributes, and that's what we agree to. So there's a certain level you can get to, so you get the consistency, and with that, in Avon's terms, comes how you onboard somebody, what learning they need. A new face cream in Mexico is remarkably the same as a new face cream in the UK. So right down to understanding about products, it's the same. And there's a core that you can do, but that core in this big global business gets smaller and smaller and smaller. What tends to happen is you build a core, and then all of a sudden, loads of people will decide to stick things on it. And that's when it gets really complicated. So we started unsticking stuff and just going back to the basics.
Can you cite a specific example at Avon that depicts a well thought out plan when it comes to designing the employee journey?
A well thought out plan. So we have our makeup, and we call our journey the experience, strangely enough. So we went simple. We talked about people join us. You'll welcome somebody into the business. Once you've welcomed them, you'll develop them at some point, and it will carry on. They'll be a part of it, and we say that's actually living in the business. And then we talk about people leaving. So we're quite honest that people don't stay forever, very rarely. Within that, we've taken a snapshot of some of the key things where we know we get it wrong. We haven't done everything, we've kind of prioritised it. So one of the things that we've looked at is job movers in the organisation, one of many. So a job mover specifically in any businesses, well, you've got a new job, congratulations, that's really great. But whilst you're going to do that job next month, I've got nobody to do the job that you're leaving. So you need to do both. And everybody, this is John. John's going to do this piece of work. Say hello to John and off you go. So they expect, because you've been in the organisation, that you will be perfectly fine transitioning. Well, to be quite honest, I work in the Chiswick office. It's different to the Northampton office. So location is different, and culture and feel of the place is different. But the jobs are different as well. So we've actually mapped out what it would take for somebody to be happy with what they would get and actually quite miserable with what they get, and what happens. And the one thing that we've learned is that we need to treat them as a new employee, because right from the fact they get a new contract, they get a new salary maybe, their benefits might change, their location might change, they might move to a different side of an office might change. What does it mean for them? And actually we need to test it out now to say, let's ask them. So what are the most important things for you? We can't do everything, but if you had some priorities in that job move, what would that look like? And we are just quite conscious, back to your original question, that it's different for everybody. So give them the options to do it.
And can you tell me how Avon and their leaders are creating this holistic employee experience?
So I think the biggest thing that we're doing as a business is making it easy. We're a bit clunky, most global businesses are, and we are taking a lot of the complexity out of the processes.
So you're declunking.
We're declunking. And taking stuff out of the processes, everybody does it. But when you start taking stuff out, it's trying to stop stuff going back in. And when we are taking things out, we're going right back down to the purpose of our business, which is to work for our bosses, which our CEO calls them, which are our representatives. Those ladies, and they are ladies in the main, who might be working as a self-employed representative, and they might be doing it to get a bit of extra cash for a family holiday, or in some cases it's to put bread and water on the table, and that's really some of the cases that are out there. We've got a responsibility to help them to be the best they can in a world where they don't work for us. So there's a little bit of complication there in terms of what goes on. But that isn't complicated. We just need to give her the right product to sell at the right time, at the right price in the right market. And when we think about that in the context of the business, everything else should just fall in. So there's a whole piece of cultural re-education that we're doing in the organisation at the minute. So we've simplified what it means, and it starts off with about putting her first, and her is our representative, and that's what's really important to us. So the leadership of the business is focusing on the core purpose, but not being quite mindful that, like every other business, we've got some transformation to do, we've got some savings to make, and how can we do that in the very best way whilst keeping the purpose of the organisation there. It's great to have a good heart, but also you've got to have the wallet to go with it. So we need to get them both in the right place.
Do you have any, just out of interest, do you have any males that sell your products?
We do indeed. In the UK, as an example, we have our top 50 representative board. that's there, and there are quite a couple of male faces on there. So male people do, male people, that's odd, isn't it? Men do sell product out there. And a lot of people typically remember the Avon lady knocking on the door and putting the brochure through and that. I mean, Avon's transformed since then. You know, you can do it online now, remarkably. Still goes through the representative though, so the representative still earns whether you do it online or not, so that still remains as a core. But yeah, there are. It's not as many as the ladies, that's for sure.
No, I imagine so, yeah.
But there is a core of people out there that do, so yeah, they do.
And Thomas, what would be your key takeaways from your talk today? What would you like people to go and implement into their work?
I think what I'd like them to do is to go back and to look at what they do. So first things first, the word experience seems to be replacing engagement out there in the marketplace. So you'll see people saying, "Would you be interested in this job?" and this is what it is, and it's the engagement function within your name. If you think you want to look at the experience that your people go through, your engagement metrics and what you do around that only give you a little bit of information. So it's not a case of forgetting that, but don't put as much importance on it because it's just a metric measure. Look at the key things that make your business work and why people want to work for you, but also why people leave you, and then look at the key priorities within their experience. So if I think about why people want to work for Avon, me being one of them, the purpose of the business is brilliant. Who wouldn't want to work for a business that does this? And actually, you know, you can go to a staff shop, we were talking about it earlier, and you can get some cheap product. That's really great. So that's brilliant. But on the flip side of that, you've also got to think about people, well, they need something in their role that keeps them fulfilled. It's not just the purpose that's there. I mentioned in my talk, we don't have single sign-on at the moment for everything. A bit frustrating, actually. But you know what? It doesn't stop me from coming to work. But there's other things that might stop people. So it's finding out what those one or two things are that you can do something about. And if you encourage everybody lower in the business to do it, from a global point of view, we'll look at doing 2 or 3 things really well. And everything else, whilst it might be important, just isn't a priority for now. And we've been really honest about that.
Yeah, of course. And one more bonus question.
Go on.
Can I ask how you anticipate Brexit will affect Avon globally?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So we are in the European market. We have some of our biggest markets are in Europe, of course, and some of our product is made in Europe as well. So tough one to answer, I guess. I think we need to wait and see. I'm sure the business has got the plans in place in terms of what it does, but we are clearly a global business. Of course, we relocated our global HQ from New York into London around about 18 months, 2 years ago. And we are a plethora of a business of different nationalities and cultures, which makes it so good, you know, such a good place to go to. But it'll be interesting to see what happens and how that goes. But you know, there will be things that impact businesses, such as taxes and duties, whatever the government decides to do. But let's wait and see what happens on the 29th of March or later. Who knows what's going to happen?
Whenever it happens. Okay.
Whenever.
Thank you so much for your time today, Thomas.
Pleasure.
It's been lovely chatting.
Thank you.